do something, I want to bring you along for the experience. It is December 31st. It is super gloomy outside and obviously the last day of the year, which is the perfect time to reflect on how the year went and start to think about how you want the next year to be. And I know, like in business, a lot of people say that you need to do a lot of your planning way prior. And while yes, that is true, you need to have like at least your marketing and sales kind of plans in place much sooner than this. I still think that this is a good time to like focus on visioning and like what massive changes that you want to see in the new year. So if you have not done this yet, do not worry. It is not too late. There is not some like magical, like you won't turn into a pumpkin if you don't do this on time. And now is the perfect time to do it. So basically, I want to do my reflection and goal setting together with you today. Hey, I'm Jill Wise. I'm a conversion copywriter, brand and marketing strategist, and business coach. I feel like over the years in business, I've gotten pretty good at goal setting, especially because most of the time when I set a goal, I actually do achieve it. And I've come up with a kind of a system that I follow each time that it's time to sit down and look at this kind of stuff. So personally, I do a big reflection and visioning kind of exercise at the end of every year, beginning of a new year, and then I also revisit every quarter. Like, is everything that I'm focusing on stuff that I want to continue focusing on, or does the plan need to change? And then beyond that, I still check in every month and then actually check in with my to-dos each week. So everything, like I'm always staying on track. So let's start the year together with a clear mind and a dedicated focus. I'm going to share my exact reflection questions on the screen here as I go through each of them, so you can follow along, whether that's like pausing or just writing them down and doing this later on your own. Okay, before we get into the actual questions, one thing I want to talk about is that it's so important to actually set up your space so that you can create your vision. For me personally, that's like sitting here in my office, the house is quiet, baby is napping, husband is out doing errands. Everything is just like calm and peaceful, and I've got like my coffee and I'm on my yoga mat, I'm in comfy clothes, like it's just a good mood. And when you have a good mood or a good vibe set like this, then it makes it so much easier to dream up like what you want to happen next. For me, like having an office like this was one of my goals back in the day. Like I wanted to have my own dedicated workspace, and the idea that there was like French doors was a really cool idea, and now I have this dedicated workspace with the French doors, and like this is my space to create. Like I've set it up exactly how I want it to be. So whatever your space is, like I used to start on our kitchen table that we got for free on Kijiji, or like on the couch, whatever you want. Just find a space that is quiet and is like your, I guess, safe space to create from. And it doesn't matter if you want to do this digitally, like I have my tablet here that I often use for writing notes, or I have my actual notebook. A lot of good stuff is in these notebooks. I have a whole drawer full of like journals and notebooks for work and stuff like that. I should honestly go through them. There's probably some good stuff in there. But whatever method you want to use to do this is totally fine. Another way that I need to like set the mood or set the tone for reflection and goal setting is I need to go in and kind of close out the year work-wise. And I already did this. I did this a few days ago, a while ago, but basically going into my business's project management tool and like closing out any tasks that are done, or checking off everything that's in review, and just like making sure that everything is like tied up nicely with a bow. We did this for client work like weeks ago, making sure that everything was perfect. And then there's like the business side of things as well. So basically like cleaning up our workspace and dealing with any lingering tasks. Maybe some things needed to be reprioritized and we weren't going to get to it this year, so I pushed them into 2023, or I put them as pending so we can see if it's something that we actually want to do. Because often if there's tasks that are lingering, it's because we've realized that they're maybe not as big of a priority as we thought they were, and they don't really need to be on our to-do list. And once the year is closed, we have a fresh, clean slate that we can start with for 2023. Now let's get into the questions to ask yourself and actually doing the work. So we're going to start with the reflection process. I like to ask questions of what worked well, what didn't work well, or what was maybe really hard. What do I want more of, and what do I want less of? And all of the above applies to every aspect of business and life. And I try to think of all of the different categories. So the client work, business finances, team growth, marketing efforts and content creation, maybe scheduling, business development, my personal life, so the freedom and flexibility that I feel like I have, or the health and wellness kind of efforts in my life, like am I getting enough movement in my days? And then my personal life in terms of like our family goals. Are we getting what we want and building our dream life together? Let's take a second and actually like work through each of these. What worked well, what didn't work well, or what was really hard, and what do I want more of and what do I want less of? General reflection, I actually look back at my goals from the beginning of the year and see how things measured up. Specifically, I want to know if anything shifted or the priorities changed, and of course, which ones that I actually achieved. And some of my goals that I set for this year, they were like starting on a bigger picture thing. Something that I like to keep in mind is like, what is that 5-year plan, 10-year plan? Actually starting with the farther away and then working it backward. So if I know in 10 years where I want to be, then I can think of where I want to be in 5 years and 3 years and then 1 year from now. So at the beginning of this year, I actually created a fun little vision board and I made it my desktop screensaver. So those goals were like front and center literally all year. And I thought that was so helpful because like every single time I opened my laptop or my desktop, it was right there reminding me. So yeah, basically I like to do a little check-in and see how did I do and what do I need to focus on in order to get where I want to be. And honestly, I feel like this year went really well, like a lot better than I maybe thought it could have. Like I always try to set my goals a little bit higher, like the overachiever in me always wants to set the bar really high, but I don't always expect to like hit every single thing. And I feel like this year I did a lot, like aside from having an entire baby and learning how to raise that baby, like my business grew, my team grew, like our impact grew, revenue grew. I feel like I grew as a person and like we're just one step closer to building that dream life that we want as a family. So I feel like this year was really successful overall and I'm excited to see what comes next, which leads to the next part. We're going to focus on the what comes next stuff. Now, when we're thinking about what we want to happen next, a big question that I ask myself with this part is, what do I want my life and business to look like? And look like, I mean by like the actual day-to-day. Like, what does my typical day look like? What does my typical week look like? What is a typical month? And beyond that, like what extra things do I want? For me, that looks like work-life integration. So rather than just balancing it all, I want it to kind of meld together really smoothly. Like I try to get my work done while baby is sleeping. And then that way I can hang out with him and we don't have extra childcare. We don't have anyone else helping us here. It's literally just the two of us. Maybe sometimes we might have a family member come watch for a few hours here and there so that we can go out or something like that. But it's really just us and we like it like that. And so work-life integration is really important for me specifically. Also, something that I want to do more of in 2023 is take dedicated longer chunks of time off. I proved to myself that I could do this in 2022 by taking 2 entire months off for my maternity leave, and then I also took specific longer like weeks here and there throughout the year so that I could just like rest and recharge between all of the stuff and also have time to like live. Like we did a whole week away at a cottage that was super fun, and I flew across the country with the baby to visit my family for a couple weeks, and that was really fun. So that's something that I want to have more of in 2023 as well. So to give you some ideas, some things that I'm thinking about are maybe having another 2 entire months off. Another thing that I want to do is try to get even more efficient with my meeting times and maybe streamline that process a little bit more. So right now I have multiple meetings almost every single week, and I was thinking of maybe shifting it to a schedule where there's like every other week is meeting free, because then that way I can spend every other week on my focused work, or we can have flexibility for all of like the life stuff that we have to do too. The cool thing is that you get to decide what these things are that you want and what you want your business to look like. And honestly, I encourage you to like really think about this, because this is where the magic happens. Is to break down your bigger picture vision and like what you want your life to look like into specific goals, and then even further into actual action points or items or things that you can do. So let's use the example of like, I want to take a week off. Okay, what do we need to do in order to make that happen? Well, we're probably going to have to streamline some systems. What systems in our business need to be a lot more efficient in order to comfortably take a whole week off? Or maybe you need to hire some help so someone else can be manning your inbox while you're gone. So what do you need to do in order to hire that help? And just breaking everything down further into bite-sized things. I also like to think about it as priorities throughout the year. So if I want to do X thing by the end of the year, what do I need to focus on in Q4, Q3, Q2, and Q1 in order to make that happen? And then that way it also helps break down like the really big, overwhelming things that you want into actual specific tasks. So for me, in order to hit the business goals that I've set for 2023 by the end of the year, I have 3 key focuses for Q1, and those are team, updates, and traffic. Then breaking down each of those categories, the traffic is pretty self-explanatory. It's just driving more traffic to our offers through a variety of different channels and strategies and tactics and that kind of thing. So all of those are broken down into specific tactics that I want to do or tackle in Q1, and then those can be moved over into our project management so that we can actually start actioning on them. And then for team, there's some action points that I want to happen within the team, bringing on more people for different types of roles, and then also training further in order to continue refining and just like optimizing and just growing together as a team. And then the updates category includes updates in terms of our SOPs for the team and like internal processes and documents and that kind of thing, but also updates for the biz bar, because there's some really exciting things that I want to add into the existing products. But the key here is that I'm focusing on updating what's already there to make it so that it's even better, rather than like, I don't want to make anything new right now, because I don't see that as being the most strategic. I'd rather continue to serve the people that are already inside and using all of our offers really well, rather than building out something new. And then that way I know that these offers will be a no-brainer for anyone new who is coming in. So to summarize, after I have that like vision of what I want for the year and specific goals from that vision, I can break those down into individual tasks, and then I put those in the appropriate places. So for example, if it's a business development thing, then I will put that in ClickUp, and then I can brief the team on this. And if it's a personal habit that I want to build, then I might write it down in my journal or actually set reminders in my calendar so that I can make sure that I'm going to actually follow through on these things, because that's the most important part, right? Like actually following through. I think that this is a good place to end, because like I've given you quite a lot of homework here. Like these questions, they seem really simple, but they can bring up a lot of stuff, like pages and pages of stuff. Like literally this notebook is so full from just asking myself questions like this all the time. If you like this topic and you want to learn more about how I approach these business growth type of topics, I have a ton of other videos. Specifically, you should check out the 5 hires in order to grow and scale your copywriting business, and how Dubsado can save time. I'll leave a few of those other videos linked for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know what your biggest takeaway from these questions is in the comments below. And of course, thanks so much for hanging out and doing this with me. I feel like this was much needed. We'll chat soon.